With the recent release of BioShock Infinite, I can't help myself but wonder which game is better. Is it the newest entry in the series, or its original predecessor released in the not too distant 2007? Both of them are critically acclaimed and rated with unbelievably high scores, but which one will prove tougher in a battle? Let's find out! BioShock vs BioShock Infinite! Each game is assessed by 5 different criteria: story, gameplay, visuals, sound and replay value. Let the battle commence! Story! The whole action in the original BioShock takes place in Rapture, the underwater city where your worst nightmares come true. It was built by its leader Andrew Ryan in the 40s of the previous century, and it was supposed to be the perfect place to go if you wanted to avoid any political, social or religious events the world is usually known for. But, of course, things turned horribly wrong at some point. The main character, named Jack, gets there by accident after a plane crash. He discovers many dark secrets behind the city's existence, but the most shocking thing seems to be its inhabitants, the splicers, who inject themselves with the highly addictive substance known as Adam to improve their abilities, but ironically, they end up being turned into brainless monsters instead. In fact, everything in Rapture is mentally damaged in some way and desperately tries to kill you. When you make your way through the game, you will inevitably pick many audio diaries left there by the citizens, which will slowly but surely bring you the whole picture of Rapture and its secrets. There are also the Big Daddies, genetically enhanced men inside an armor whose only purpose is to protect their little sister. Together, these two characters form the most memorable duo a video game has to offer, and it's not hard to imagine why is that, even if you haven't played the game. Overall, the story is full of twists, and certain decisions are need to be made at some points, which will decide the final outcome. There is a morality system implemented in the game, and that's a big plus, adding a lot to the shallow gaming experience first-person shooters are normally known for. The city of Columbia, which you will have to explore in BioShock Infinite, is like the opposite of Rapture, but strangely enough, it's also its counterpart. The biggest difference, obviously, is that Columbia is in the sky, while Rapture is underwater, but overall, their concept is worryingly similar. The player will eventually find out the reason for this. Much like Rapture, Columbia also has its leader, Zachary Comstock, known as the Prophet or Father Comstock, who built the city at the end of the 19th century. The main character, Booker DeWitt, goes to Columbia to get a certain girl in order to wipe away his debt. The name of the girl is Elizabeth, and there are many interesting things about her, one of them being the fact that she has spent her whole life locked in a tower. After Booker releases her, she becomes not only a crucial part of the story, but also of the gameplay itself. Meanwhile, there is also a revolutionary group called Vox Populi, which tries to take down Comstock and put an end to his theocratic regime. Pretty much like in the original game, the player will stumble across many audio diaries, here known as voxophones, which citizens use to share their thoughts. To make a long story short, there are many characters involved and it's hard to keep track of all of them. Furthermore, the game is based on quantum physics, which makes it even harder to grasp, as there exist multiple realities which make the plot a lot more complicated, along with its twists, which are sometimes really hard to be predicted. When you progress through the story, the game will ask you to choose between two opposite things at some points, but unlike in the original BioShock, your ability to make decisions here will be delusional, and what you choose will have absolutely no impact on the ending, which, by the way, is only one. That's right. Not different endings this time, despite the ability to choose, but you'll see why is that if you haven't played the game already. I think the original BioShock deserves to be praised more in terms of story than BioShock Infinite, because it is not that complicated, also it offers the player to make a real decision, and it has a great morality system which could not be overlooked. Gameplay! Both games are quite similar in their gameplay. It's one of the things that makes BioShock so distinctive after all. Besides the different types of weapons you can equip, which are nothing really special, there is a new impressive mechanic, the so-called plasmids. These things are made from Adam, and once you take them, your body gets genetically modified, gaining different kind of special powers depending on the type of the plasmid. And the good thing is that they are upgradable just like your weapons. You need a certain amount of ETH to use them though, which is liquefied Adam you could access in form of hypos almost everywhere you go, or alternatively, you can buy it along with many other different things from a slot machine. Furthermore, Adam is also used for tonics, which have various effects on you and your enemies when you equip them to an empty slot. Everything I mentioned until now is also available in BioShock Infinite under different name. Plasmids and tonics are called vigors and gears respectively, and instead of ETH, you need salts to power up your vigors. Adam does not exist in the world of Columbia under the same name, or at least the player is never actually taught what vigors are made of. In BioShock, the only way to gain pure Adam, which you later use to buy plasmids, is by either harvesting or rescuing a little sister once you have killed her big daddy. Here you can clearly see the morality system I was talking about earlier, and it's not really hard to guess that you will get either the bad or the good ending depending on what you choose most of the time. The big daddies are replaced by handymen in BioShock Infinite, which sadly are not nearly as spectacular as their original counterpart, even if we neglect the absence of a little sister. Although there are many similarities in the gameplay of the two games, there are also as many differences. In BioShock, for example, some machines such as turrets can be turned over to your side by hacking them. To do so, you have to first play a minigame by connecting pipes like a plumber. In BioShock Infinite, on the other hand, there aren't any minigames at all. You can use the possession vigor instead, which is a much lazier alternative. What I really like in the original BioShock is the possibility to use the environment to your advantage. With the right plasmids you can ignite certain objects, beside red barrels, which nowadays are available in just every first-person shooter, and even shock your enemies with electricity. Something interesting about BioShock Infinite is that you can use only 2 weapons at a time, which can be little frustrating sometimes, especially when you're out of ammo. You can also use your skyhook to perform melee attacks or to travel via skylines, which can be really fun and exciting. The most unique thing about BioShock Infinite, however, is Elizabeth, who is not only your companion, but also a reliable partner in every battle. She will toss you all kind of things when you need them most, but the best thing is that she knows how to defend herself, so you won't play the role of a bodyguard. Quite a clever NPC, I must admit. The addition of Elizabeth to the gameplay in BioShock Infinite is really the only thing that stands out in comparison to its predecessor. But it just isn't enough, and that's why the original game deserves the point here. Visuals! Both games use the Unreal Engine, with BioShock using a previous version of it, which is understandable considering the fact that it was released in 2007. Nevertheless, the graphics and the visual effects are awesome and really highlight both the beauty and the horror Rapture and Columbia have to offer. However, in Rapture you spend your whole time inside the different buildings, which is partially explained by the inability to breathe underwater, which is why everywhere is too dark and there isn't really a variety of different environments to enjoy. While in Columbia, you actually get the opportunity to examine the city with its vibrant colors and every one of its fine details, although the game doesn't offer an open world. BioShock Infinite gets the point here because of its undeniable beauty, which even surpasses that of its own predecessor. Sound! Both BioShock games have their own soundtrack, which is really good, but you will probably not notice something really special on your first run, or at least that was the case with me, because of the overwhelming sound effects produced by guns, enemies and whatnot. Especially in BioShock, There are some interesting tracks that keep reminding you of the time the story sets in, and that are even more catchy and memorable combined with the background events occurring in Rapture. It just adds a lot to the Rapture madness, which will haunt you forever after playing this game. That's why the original BioShock wins this one. Replay value! BioShock gets the point here only because of different endings and paths the player could take. The game really allows you to experiment and to change the final outcome, unlike BioShock Infinite, which will end the same way no matter how many things you try to do differently. BioShock wins! That's all for now. Like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos coming. You can also suggest another drastic battle between two games of the same genre.